ARTEMIS, welcome to the moon. Andy Weir. I wound triggered through the opulent pathways of Shepherd Buffalo. It was a far cry from my CG neighborhood. The whole range of Shepherd feature would paneling and tasteful. Noise absorption carpeting. Candlelights hang every 20 meters to provide light. Those at least aren't stupidly expensive. You've got plenty of silicone on the moon, so glass is locally made. But still, talk about ostentatious. If you think vacationing on the moon is expensive, you don't want to know what it costs to live in Shepherd Bubble. Andrin is all overpriced resort and hotel, but Shepherd is where wealthy Artemisians live. I was headed to the estate of one of the richest rich folks in town, Trond Mendvik. He'd made a fortune in the Norwegian telecom industry. His home occupied a big chunk of Shepherd ground floor, stupidly huge, considering it was just him, his daughter, and lived in maid. But hey, it was his money. If he wanted to have a big house on the moon, who was I to judge? I just brought him illegal seat, as requested. I parked trigger next to the estate entrance, one of the entrance anyway, and rang the buzzer. The door slid open to reveal a bulky Russian woman. Irina had been with the Landviks since the dawn of time. She started at me wordlessly. I stared back. Delivery, I finally said. Irina and I had interacted a zillion times in the past, but she made me state my business every time I came to the door. She snorted, turned, and walked inside. That was my invitation to enter. I made a snide face at her back while she led me through the mansion's foyer. She pointed down the hall and walked in the opposite direction without saying a word. Anyway, it's a pleasure, Irina, I called after her. Through the archway, I found the throne reclining on a sofa, wearing sweat and a bathrobe. He chatted with an Asian man I'd never seen before. Anyway, the money-making potential is, he saw me enter and flashed a wide smile. Josh, always good to see you. The strange guest had an open box next to him. He smiled politely and fumbled it closed. Of course, that just made me curious, when I normally wouldn't have given a shit. Good to see you too, I said. I dropped a Katra band on the couch. Trond gestured to the guest. This is Jin Chu from Hong Kong. Jin, this is Jazz Bashara. She's a local girl. Grew up right here on the moon. Jin bowed his head quickly, then spoke with an American accent. Nice to meet you, Jazz. I caught me off guard, and I guess it showed. Trond laughed. Yeah, Jin here is a product of high-class American private schools. Hong Kong, man, it's a magical place. But not as magical as Artemis. Jin beamed. This is my first visit to the moon. I am like a kid in a candy store. I've always been a fan of science fiction. I grew up watching Star Trek. Now I get to live it. Star Trek? Tron said. Seriously? That's like 100 years old. Quality is quality, Jin said. Age is irrelevant. No one bitches about Shakespeare pens. Fair point, but there aren't any hot alien babies to seduce here. You can't quite to be Captain Cock. Actually, Jinchu held up a finger. Cock only had sex with 3 alien women in the entire classic series, and that number assumed he slept with Helena of Troyes, which was implied but never made clear, so it might just be 2. Tron bowed in supplication. I'll no longer challenge you on anything Star Trek, Richard. Are you going to the Apollo 11 site while you are here? Absolutely, Jin said. I hear there are EVA tours. Should I do one, you think? I piped in. Yeah, there's an exclusion perimeter around the whole site. The viewing hall in the visitor center gets you just as close. Oh, I see. Guess there's no point then. Suck it. Anyone want tea or coffee? Trent offered. Yes, please, Jin said. Dark coffee if you have it. I slumped into a nearby chair. Black tea for me. Trent bolted over a back of the coach. Not as exciting as it sounded. Remember the gravity here. He slid to the credenza and picked up a wicker basket. I just get some high-end Turkish coffee. You'll love it. He craned his neck toward me. Jack, you might like it too. Coffee is just a bad kind of tea, I said. Black tea is the only hot drink worth having. You Saudis do love your black tea, Tron said. Yes, technically, I am a citizen of Saudi Arabia, but I haven't been there since I was 6. I picked up a few attitude and belief from that, but I wouldn't fit in anywhere on Earth nowadays. I'm an ARTEMIS. Tron got to work on our drinks. Talk amongst yourselves. It'll be a minute. Why not have Irina do it? I don't know. I don't know what the hell she was for. Instantly. Jin rested his arm on the mystery box. I hear Artemis is a popular romantic destination. Are there a lot of newlyweds here? None really, I said. They aren't afforded, but we do get older couples trying to spice things up in the bedroom. He looked confused. Gravity, I said. Sex is totally different in 1/6 G. It's great for couples who've been married a long time. They get to rediscover sex together. It's like new. I never thought of that, Jin said. Lots of prostitutes in Aldrin if we want to find out more. No. Not my things at all. He hadn't expected a woman to recommend hookers. Authors tend to be uptight on that topic, and I never understood why. It's a service performed for a paying pavement. What the big deal? I shrugged. If you change your mind, They run about 2,000 slugs. I won't, he laughed nervously and changed the subject. So, why is Artemisian money called slugs? I put my feet on the coffee table. It's short for soft landed grams, SLG, slug. One slug get 1 gram of cargo delivered from us to Artemis, quarters of KSC. It's technically not a currency, Tron said from the contender. You are not a country. We can't have a currency. Slugs are free purchased service credit from KSC. You pay dollars, euros, and whatever. And in exchange, you get a mass allowance for shipment to Artemis. You don't have to use it all at once, so they keep track of your balance. He carried that tray over to the coffee table. It ended up being a handy unit for trade. So, KSC is functioning as your bank. You should never get away with that on us, but this isn't us. Jim reached forward to get his coffee, and he did. As he did, I got a look at the box. It was white with stark black text that read Jaffa sample, authorized use only. So, this couch I'm on is an us import, right? Jin said. How much did it cost to bring here? That one weighs 43 kilograms. Trond said. So it cost 43,000 slugs to have it shipped. What does a typical person make? Asked Jin. If you don't mind me asking, that is. I grabbed my tea and let the cups warmth seep into my hand. I make 12,000 a month as a porter. It's a lower paying job. Jim sipped his coffee and made a face. I've seen it before. Authors hate our coffee. Physics dictated that it tastes like shit. Earth's air is 20% oxygen. The rest is stuff human bodies don't need like nitrogen and argon. So, Artemis air is pure oxygen at 20% Earth's air pressure. That gives us the right amount of oxygen while minimizing pressure on the hulls. It's not a new concept. It goes back to the Apollo days. Thing is, the lower the pressure, the lower the boiling point of water. Water boils at 61 degrees Celsius here, so that's as hot as tea or coffee can be. Apparently, it's disgustingly cold to people who aren't used to it. Jin disagreeedly put the cup back on the table. He wouldn't be picking it up again. What brings you to Artemis? I asked. He drummed the fingers on the Jaffa box. You've been working on the business deal for months. You are finally closing the deal. So I wanted to meet Mr. Landvik in person. Trond settled into his couch and picked up the box of contraband. I told you, call me Trond. Trond it is, Jin said. Trond tore the wrapping of the package and pulled out a dark wooden box. He held it up to the light and looked at it from several angles. I'm not much for aesthetics, but even I could tell it was a thing of beauty. Intricate etching covered every surface, and it had tasteful label written in Spanish. What have we here? Jing asked. Trond flashed a shit-eating grin and opened the box. 24 cigarette, which in its own paper holder rested inside. Dominican cigars. People think Cuban are the best, but they are wrong. It's all about the Dominicans. I smuggled a box of those things in for him every month. Got to love regular customers. He pointed to the door. Jack, would you mind closing that? I headed to the doorway. A starkly functioning hatch hid behind a finely appointed wall panel. I slid it closed and spun the handle shut. Hatches are pretty common in upscale homes. If the bubble loses pressure, you can seal your house and not die. Some people are paranoid enough to seal their bedrooms at night just in case. Waste of money if you ask me. There's never been a pressure loss in ARTEMIS history. I have a special air filtration system in here, Trond said. The smoke never gets out of this room. He unwrapped a cigar, bit the end off, and spilled it into an ashtray. Then he put the cigar in his mouth and lit with a gold lighter. He puffed several times and sighed. Good stuff. Good stuff. He held the box out toward Jane, who politely waved it away. Then he offered it to me. Sure, I grabbed one and slipped it into my breast pocket. I'll smoke it after lunch. That was a lie, but why would I turn down something like that? I could probably get 100 slugs for it. Jean furrowed his brow. I'm sorry, but cigars are contraband? Ridiculously, really, said Trond. I have a sealed room. My smoke doesn't bother anyone. It's injustice, I tell you. Oh, you are so full of shit. I turned to Jean. It's a fire. A fire in ARTEMIS would be a nightmare. It's not like you can go outside. Flammable material are illegal unless there's a really good reason for them. The last thing we want is a bunch of idiots wandering around with lighters. Well, I guess that's that. Trond fiddled with his lighter. I'd smuggled it in for him years ago. Every few months, he needed new button. More money for me. I took another swig of warm tea and pulled out my Gizmo. Trond, right, of course. He pulled out his own Gizmo and held it next to mine. Still 4,000 slugs? But fair warning, I have to bump it to 4,500 next time. Things got more expensive for me recently. Not a problem, he said. He typed while I waited. After a moment, my screen popped up the transfer verification. I accepted and the transaction was complete. All good, I said. I turned to Jim. Nice to meet you, Mr. Jin. Have fun while you are here. Thanks, I will. Have a good one, Jazz. Trond smiled. I left the two men behind to do whatever they were up to. I didn't know what it was, but I sure the hell wasn't above board. Trond did all sort of shady shit. That was why I liked him. If he'd brought a guy all the way to the moon, there was something way more interesting going on than a business deal. I rounded the corner and left through the foyer. Irina gave me a nasty look as I departed. I'll wrinkled my nose at her. She closed the door behind me without saying goodbye. I was just about to hop into trigger when my gizmo beeped. A photo job had just popped up. I had seniority and proximity, so the system offered it to me first. Pick up location AG 5250, mass 100 kg, drop off location unspecified, payment 452 slugs. Oh, 452 whole slugs, roughly a tenth of what I've just made from a box of cigars. I accepted. I had to make money somehow.